I found a document where my wife rated me like a product. That sentence still sounds fake when I say it out loud, like something a bitter guy would invent on the internet after losing an argument and his dignity in the same evening. But no, it happened. It had bullet points, comments, color coding, and it was all laid out in a shared Google Doc like I was some kind of project. If you had asked me 3 years ago what kind of marriage I was building, I would have told you the same stupid thing most men say right before the floor caves in beneath them. A solid one. Not perfect. Not movie perfect. Not the kind where two attractive lunatics slow dance in the kitchen while laughing over burnt pancakes. Real. Adult. Stable. I worked, I handled things, I kept life moving. My wife, Vanessa, handled the social side of existence like it was her personal Olympic event. She could walk into any room and have half the people smiling at her within 10 minutes. Vanessa was the kind of woman who knew exactly what angle to tilt her face at when taking a photo, exactly how long to pause before answering a question, and exactly how to make a harmless comment sound like a compliment dipped in acid. When we first met, I thought that confidence was attractive. By year 3, I realized confidence and contempt can wear the same lipstick. From the outside, we looked good. That was the important part to her. We had the clean apartment, the framed vacation photos, the dinner dates, the curated little life that made people say things like, "You two are such a great couple." That sentence always made me want to laugh in a way that would probably concern medical professionals. Because inside the apartment, the temperature had changed. Not all at once. That would have been too easy. Nobody puts "begin emotional demolition" on a calendar invite. It happens in layers. A tone here, a look there, a joke that lands a little too clean, a comparison you were definitely supposed to hear but not supposed to react to. Vanessa became colder in the way polished metal is cold. "You'd actually be really attractive," she told me one night while watching me fix the hinge on a kitchen cabinet, "if you carried yourself differently." I looked up at her. "That's supposed to be encouragement?" "It is encouragement," she said. "I'm saying the potential is there." The potential. Wow. I've always wanted to be reviewed like an unpaid intern. She smiled at that. Vanessa loved smiling when she said something insulting, because then if you objected, suddenly you were the unstable one, the man who couldn't take a joke, the emotionally fragile beast wounded by a sentence. Another time she said, "Some men just have that natural presence, you know? They walk into a room and people feel it." "Interesting," I said. "And what happens when you walk into a room?" She didn't even blink. "Usually people improve." That was Vanessa. Every exchange was a fencing match, except she liked to pretend we were baking cookies. I'm not a timid guy. Never was. I'm not one of those men who apologizes because somebody else stepped on his foot. I've got a temper, a sense of humor sharp enough to be considered a workplace hazard. And I don't enjoy being spoken to like I'm a household appliance that developed a weird noise. So yes, we argued. Then there were the phone habits. She started smiling at her screen more, not the normal kind. Not "my friend sent me a meme" smiling. This was that private, satisfied little grin people get when the conversation on their phone is feeding something ugly in them. And every single time I got near her, the screen tilted away. Not fast. Vanessa didn't do fast. Fast looks guilty. She did it smoothly, like the phone had simply decided on its own that I no longer deserved a viewing angle. One evening, I walked behind the couch while she was texting. The second my shadow crossed the cushion, she locked the screen. I stopped. She looked up. "What?" "Nothing," I said. "Just admiring your lightning reflexes. You should try out for national security." She rolled her eyes. "God, not everything is about you." That line, classic. Nothing says, "You're definitely not being excluded from something," like telling a man it's narcissistic to notice he's being excluded from something. Then came the comments, the little polished darts. "You could be better, you know." "At what?" She shrugged. "As a man. In general." "In general," I repeated. Great category. Very measurable. Another time she said, some husbands actually make their wives feel inspired. I looked at her over my coffee. And some wives make their husbands question every decision that led them here, but we all have goals. She stared at me for a second, then laughed. Not because it was funny. Vanessa laughed when she wanted to dismiss a point without admitting it landed. I should mention her friends. If Vanessa was the queen of elegant disrespect, her friends were the board of directors. There were three main ones. Chloe, who spoke like every sentence was being recorded for a podcast about boundaries. Melissa, who had the moral architecture of a casino bathroom. And Jenna, who looked permanently delighted by the possibility of somebody else's marriage collapsing. They liked me. Officially. Unofficially, they spoke to me the way women speak to a harmless dog at a party. Pleasant tone. An energy that said, we know exactly what you are. We had dinner with them one Friday at a trendy little restaurant where everything on the menu sounded either overeducated or undercooked. The dinner started normal. Wine, appetizers. Melissa talking about some guy she'd been seeing casually, which apparently meant using like a rental car. Then Chloe looked at me and said, you know what I like about you, Daniel? I already didn't like where this was going. Can't wait to hear this. You're very stable. Melissa nodded. That's actually rare. Jenna smiled over her glass. Very dependable energy. I leaned back in my chair. Amazing. You three make me sound like a mid-range Japanese sedan. Vanessa laughed a little too hard. Chloe put a hand to her chest. No, I mean it as a compliment. Of course you do, I said. Because nothing makes a man feel alive like being described as infrastructure. Vanessa tilted her head at me. You're being sensitive. No, I said, cutting into my steak. I'm being reviewed, apparently in categories. Melissa gave Vanessa a look. Not a long look, just one of those tiny little flashes people think nobody notices. But I noticed it. Jenna smiled at me. Honestly, you're the kind of husband women feel safe with. That sounds dangerously close to saying I'm non-threatening. Oh, come on, Vanessa said. That's not what she means. Jenna took a sip of wine and said, no, I mean, safe is good. Right, I said. Good old safe. The word every man hopes gets used about him in a low-lit restaurant while his wife's friends nod like they're evaluating a horse. For a second, nobody spoke. Then Chloe laughed. Vanessa laughed. Melissa hid a smile. And that should have pleased me, right? I made the table laugh. Great. Big win for comedy. Except it didn't feel like I was controlling the moment. It felt like I was dancing on a stage they had quietly built under me. Later that night, when we got home, Vanessa kicked off her heels and said, you were a little defensive. I hung my keys by the door. Your friends were talking about me like I was an emotionally support-certified Ottoman. They were being nice. No, they were being careful. There's a difference. She turned to me, arms folded. You always do this. Somebody says something mildly constructive and you turn it into some grand insult. Mildly constructive? I stared at her. Your friend called me safe with the enthusiasm of someone choosing yogurt. Vanessa sighed. You know what your problem is? I laughed once. This should be good. You don't improve, you just react. I looked at her. You practicing these speeches somewhere? Her expression changed for half a second. Barely anything, but enough. Then she said, maybe if you spent less time trying to win every conversation and more time becoming someone worth listening to, you'd notice less criticism. That was the moment I almost said something unforgivable. Instead, I smiled. Not because I was calm, because when you grow up around men with bad tempers, you learn smiling is sometimes just anger putting on a tie. Good talk, I said. Next time, maybe print out a progress report. Easier for both of us. She gave me that look again, the one that said she thought I was too slow to understand what was happening around me. That look would come back to haunt her. A week later, I found the document. It was a Tuesday. I came home late, loosened my tie, and found Vanessa in the bedroom getting ready to go meet Chloe for drinks. "Can you order food later?" she asked, standing in front of the mirror. "I'll probably be back around 9. "Depends," I said. "Are you asking me or assigning me?" She looked at me through the mirror. "Do you always have to do that?" "Do what?" "Make everything into a thing." I picked up my wallet from the dresser. "Nope. Sometimes I also breathe and pay taxes." She muttered something under her breath, grabbed her bag, and headed for the door. A minute later I heard, "Damn it." I walked out. "What now?" "My laptop," she said. "I need to send one file before I leave, but my phone's not loading it." "It's on the bed," I said. She rushed back in, opened the laptop, clicked around, sent whatever she had to send, then yelled, "Okay, I'm leaving." Door closed. Silence. I went to the bedroom a few minutes later because I'd forgotten my charger. Her laptop was still open on the bed. I should tell you I wasn't sneaking. I wasn't hunting. I wasn't creeping towards state secrets in dim light, while dramatic music played in the background. I literally wanted to move the laptop so I could sit down without crushing it. That's all. Then the screen caught my eye. Google Docs. A document open. At first I only saw the title. Husband Evaluation. Final. I actually frowned like the words were in another language. Then I sat down and stared. I clicked. Appearance, 410, ambition, 310, confidence, 210, usefulness, 710, emotional strength, 310, social value, 410, replaceability, high. I remember blinking, then leaning closer, then actually laughing once. Not because it was funny, because the alternative was putting my fist through the wall and explaining to the landlord that marriage had turned into Excel. Below the evaluation table, there were comments. From Vanessa, from Chloe, from Melissa, from Jenna. They had initials beside each note like this was some kind of deranged quarterly review. Safe but boring. Wouldn't cheat, which is convenient. Easy to manage if handled right. Good for now. Lacks presence. Can be pushed. I felt heat climb up my neck so fast it made my ears ring. There are moments in life when the whole room changes shape around you. That was one of them. Then I saw there was another section lower down. A separate heading. Upgrade options. Just 2 words. Clean. Neutral. Like something you'd see in a software menu. Except this wasn't software. This was my life. My marriage. And apparently, my replacement plan. I didn't scroll at first. I just sat there, staring at the words like they might rearrange themselves into something less disgusting if I gave them enough time. They didn't. So I scrolled. Gym guy. Confident. Better presence. Work guy. More ambitious, stronger frame. New one. Strong energy. Could transition if timing is right. I actually leaned back from the screen like it had physically pushed me. Transition. That word stuck. Like I was a temporary subscription she was planning to upgrade from. For a second, everything in me went quiet. No anger, no thoughts. Just this strange, hollow pause where your brain tries to protect you by refusing to process what it's seeing. Then I scrolled again. More comments. Need to test boundaries more. He doesn't react much. Probably won't notice. Safe to push further. That last one. That one hit different. Safe to push further. I read it again. And again. And then something inside me finally lit up. Not sadness. Not even rage. Not at first. Something colder. Clearer. Because in that moment, I understood exactly what I was to them. Not a partner. Not even an opponent. A controlled environment. A test subject with predictable responses. A man they had already figured out. I exhaled slowly and leaned forward, elbows on my knees, laptop still open in front of me. Wow, I said out loud to an empty room. That's efficient. My hands were shaking, not dramatically, not movie style, just enough to notice. enough to make the cursor on the screen feel like it was moving too fast when I scrolled. I looked at the table again. Appearance? 410. I glanced at my reflection in the black edge of the screen. 4, I muttered. Generous. Ambition? 310. I let out a short laugh. Right, because working full-time and keeping your life running doesn't count unless you post about it. Confidence? 210. That one made me sit back again. 2 out of 10. I rubbed my jaw slowly. Interesting, I said, because I'm pretty confident I could walk into the next room right now and end this entire experiment in under 5 minutes. My eyes dropped to the bottom line. Replaceability. High. I stared at that one the longest, not because it was the worst, because it was the most honest. I felt the anger rise then, fast, hot, immediate. My chest tightened, my jaw locked, and for a very real second, I imagined exactly what it would look like. I walk into the bar where she is. I put the laptop on the table. I open the document. I don't raise my voice. I don't need to. I just say, explain this. And I watch everything collapse. I could see it. The confusion, the panic, the quick lies, the scrambling. It would be messy. It would be loud. It would be satisfying. My fingers curled slightly against my knees. I stood up, took a step toward the door, then stopped. Because another thought cut through all of that. They think I don't know. I looked back at the laptop, at the document, at the comments, at the neat little system they had built around me. And suddenly, the idea of walking in and blowing everything up felt small, exactly what they expected from a guy with a 210 in confidence. I slowly sat back down, picked up the laptop again. No, I said under my breath. Not like that. I scrolled to the top, read everything again, slower this time, not as a victim, as someone studying the people who wrote it. Vanessa's comments were structured, controlled, almost clinical. Chloe's were dressed up as advice. Melissa's were blunt. Jenna's were entertained. They weren't just talking. They were coordinating. That meant something important. It meant this wasn't emotional. It was intentional. And intentional things can be used. I reached for the trackpad, hovered over the top right corner. I could close it, walk away, pretend I never saw it. That option lasted about half a second. Then I clicked into the document settings. Shared access. There it was. Her email. Chloe, Melissa, Jenna, and permissions. Editor. Of course. A smile started forming before I even realized it. The kind of smile you get when something clicks into place in a way that's probably going to ruin someone's week. Okay, I said quietly. I moved the cursor into the document. Didn't type. Not yet. Just sat there. Thinking. Because this was the part that mattered. Anybody can react. Anybody can explode. Anybody can storm into a room and demand answers. But that's not what this was anymore. This was a system. And systems, you don't break them by yelling at them. You break them by making them turn on themselves. I tapped the screen lightly with my finger. They wanted a game, I said. Fine, let's play. I moved the cursor down to the upgrade options section, hovered. I started typing, slow, careful, matching their tone. There might be another option worth considering, still observing. I read it again, neutral, vague, exactly like the rest of the poison in that file. No names, no details, just enough to raise a question. I didn't add anything else. Saved. Closed the laptop halfway, then stopped. No, I muttered. Let's see how smart you actually are. I left it open. Walked to the kitchen, poured water, came back. Nothing yet. Of course. People don't instantly respond like it's a live chat. So I closed the laptop. That was move one. Small, clean. And now we wait. The next morning, I woke up before her. Because my brain had decided sleep was no longer part of the plan. Vanessa was still asleep, facing away. Calm, peaceful. I got up, went straight to the living room, opened the laptop, document, open. And there it was. Comments. Fresh ones. My pulse picked up instantly. Chloe. Wait, what does that mean? Melissa. What option? Jenna. Hold on. Did I miss something? I leaned closer. There was a pause. Then, Vanessa. I didn't write that. I let out a slow breath. There we go, I said quietly. Chloe replied almost immediately. Then who did? Melissa. Is someone else in this doc? Jenna. Okay, that's not funny. Vanessa. Did one of you add this? Chloe. No. Melissa. Not me. I watched the screen, completely still. You could feel it now. The shift, the clean, controlled tone of the document, cracked. For the first time, it wasn't organized. It was uncertain. I moved the cursor, hovered again. This time I didn't hesitate. I typed, "Maybe you're not the only one evaluating." Saved. And waited. The response was almost instant. Jenna. Okay, what? Melissa. Who is writing this? Chloe. Vanessa, are you sure this is secure? Vanessa. This isn't funny. Excellent. Apparently she's awake and has access to the phone. That line made me smile. Because now she was uncomfortable. Good. I leaned forward slightly, watching. Vanessa added another message. Is someone else logged into this? Melissa. Change the permissions. Chloe. Yeah, check access right now. I could almost see it. Her sitting there, phone in hand, probably frowning, probably annoyed, probably trying to stay composed. Still thinking she was in control. Still thinking this was just a glitch. I tapped the trackpad lightly. Time for the next move. Not big. Just enough to tilt it further. I added one more line. He's not as unaware as you think. Saved. This time the reaction wasn't immediate. There was a pause, longer, heavier. Then, Chloe. What does that mean? Melissa. If this is a joke, it's not funny anymore. Jenna. Wait, do you think he saw something? And there it was, the first real crack. I leaned back slowly. Yeah, I said under my breath. Start thinking. Vanessa finally replied. He hasn't said anything. Chloe. Then don't do anything stupid. Melissa. Seriously, if he knows, you need to slow down. Jenna. This just got way more interesting. I let out a quiet breath and stood up. Walked to the window. Looked outside. Cars moving. People walking. Normal world. Meanwhile, inside my apartment, my marriage had just turned into a psychological experiment. And for the first time, I wasn't the one being tested. I turned back to the laptop, looked at the document again, at the comments, at the tone. Completely different now. No more confidence, no more neat analysis. Just questions, doubt, unease. I nodded to myself. Good, I said quietly. Then I closed the laptop. Because now I didn't need to rush. Now I had time. That evening, I acted exactly the same. Same tone, same behavior, same version of me they had already classified. We had dinner. She talked about her day. I listened. At one point, she looked at me and said, "You're quiet." I shrugged. Thinking. About what? I took a sip of water. Options. Just one word. That was all. Her eyes flickered, just for a second. But I saw it, clear as day. What do you mean? She asked. I shrugged again. Work stuff. She kept looking at me, longer than usual, trying to read something, trying to figure out if anything had changed. I held her gaze for a second, then went back to my food. Conversation moved on, but the air didn't. Something had shifted, and for the first time, they weren't completely sure what I knew, or what I was going to do next. And that uncertainty? That was mine now. That night, I didn't touch the document, not once. Which ironically made it stronger, because now the last thing they saw was that message. He's not as unaware as you think. And then silence. No follow-up, no explanation, no correction, just a statement, hanging there. That's the thing about uncertainty. It grows on its own. The next morning, I didn't check the doc right away either. Instead, I made coffee, sat down, let the routine play out. Vanessa was quieter than usual, not dramatically, but enough. She was watching me again, trying to map me, trying to reclassify something that no longer fit the old version. "Did you sleep okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Why?" "You were up late." I shrugged. "Couldn't sleep." "Thinking?" I looked at her, just for a second longer than normal. Something like that. She nodded slowly, but her eyes didn't leave my face right away. Good. Let her look. Let her work for it. I opened the laptop mid-morning. By this point, Vanessa had already left for work. Not rushed, not tense, just deliberate. Document. Open. Chloe. We need to assume someone else saw this. Melissa. Or still has access. Jenna. Or is literally watching us right now. I smirked slightly. "Hi, Jenna." Scrolling. More. Vanessa. I checked access. Nothing new. Melissa. Then how is this happening? Chloe. Did you leave it open somewhere? Jenna. Or someone saw it while you weren't around? That one sat there for a second, unanswered. I leaned closer. Vanessa replied, "It was open last night." Pause, then. "But I was home." I let out a quiet laugh. "Yeah," I said. "You were." Chloe. "Was he there?" Melissa. "Vanessa?" Jenna. Oh, that's interesting. There it was. The shift. Now the spotlight wasn't on me as a subject. It was on her. I scrolled slower now, taking it in, watching how fast things were unraveling. Vanessa didn't respond immediately, which meant she was thinking carefully, which meant she was nervous. Finally, he didn't see anything. Short, controlled, but not convincing. Not even a little. Melissa. "How do you know?" Chloe. "Yeah, are you sure?" Jenna. "Define didn't see anything." I leaned back in my chair. "Yeah," I murmured. "Define that." This was the moment, the pivot. So far, I'd been the ghost, the unknown. But now? Now it was time to apply pressure. Not random, directed. I moved the cursor, scrolled up, past the comments, past the upgrades, back to the main table, the ratings, the neat little system they built to reduce me to numbers. I hovered over it for a second, then clicked and typed. Not a comment, not a hint, a change. Loyalty, 110 respect, 010 integrity, 010. I didn't touch the rest, left everything else exactly as it was. Because contrast matters, saved, and leaned back. "No more whispers," I said quietly. "Let's see how you handle direct feedback." The reaction wasn't instant, which made it better, because it meant someone saw it, paused, and then realized what it meant. Then, Jenna. "Okay, that's not one of us." Melissa. "What the hell is that?" Chloe. "Vanessa, someone is editing the actual table now." Vanessa. "I see it. Caps. First time. Control slipping. Good." Melissa. "This is not funny." Jenna. "Okay, I take it back. This is actually terrifying." Chloe. "Remove access now." Vanessa. "I already did." Pause. Then, "It's still here." I smiled. Slow. Cold. "Yeah," I said. "That's the problem." That evening, she didn't act normal. Not even close. She was quieter, sharper, watching everything. Me, my phone, my tone. We sat at dinner, silence stretched longer than usual. Finally, she said, "Did you use my laptop yesterday?" There it was. I didn't look up immediately, just kept cutting my food. Then, "Yeah." Simple, true. Her fingers tightened slightly around her fork. "For what?" "Close some tabs," I said. It was open. She nodded slowly, too slowly. "And you didn't see anything?" I looked up at her then, direct, calm. What exactly was I supposed to see? There it was, that moment, that split-second freeze, her brain trying to decide which version of reality to commit to. "Nothing," she said quickly. "Just work stuff." "Then yeah," I said. "Nothing." I held her gaze. just long enough. Then went back to eating. She didn't. Not right away. Because now she didn't know. And worse, she didn't know how much I didn't know. Later that night, she stayed on her phone longer than usual. Didn't even try to hide it. Typing, deleting, typing again, damage control, rewriting narratives, trying to regain structure. I didn't ask, didn't care. Because now the system was broken, and they all knew it. And the next move was going to end it. The next day felt quiet. Just quiet in the way a room gets quiet after something breaks, and nobody wants to be the first to acknowledge it. Vanessa moved around the apartment like everything was fine. Same routine, same coffee, same good morning. But there was a tightness to it now. A delay before answers. A second longer eye contact, like she was running calculations in real time. Trying to decide which version of me she was dealing with. The one from the document, or something else. I let her wonder. I didn't bring it up in the morning, didn't push, didn't hint, because this part wasn't about pressure. It was about inevitability. You don't chase someone when they're already cornered. You just make sure there's no exit. That afternoon, while Vanessa went to the store, I decided to check again. I opened the document one last time, just to see. And yeah, it was gone. Deleted. Entirely. I stared at the empty page for a second, then nodded. Of course, I said quietly. Delete the evidence. Classic move. But here's the thing. Deleting something doesn't mean it never existed. It just means you're scared of it. By the evening, I knew she couldn't hold it much longer. You could see it in the way she kept picking up her phone and putting it back down, in the way she started sentences and didn't finish them, in the way silence didn't feel neutral anymore. It felt loaded. We were sitting at the table again, dinner between us, untouched. Finally, she said it. So, can I ask you something? I leaned back slightly. Sure. She hesitated, which was new. Vanessa didn't hesitate, not before. Did you notice anything weird on my laptop? There it was, clean, direct, but still careful, still giving herself space to retreat. I looked at her, didn't answer immediately, let the silence sit. Then I said, depends on what you consider weird. Her fingers tightened slightly on the edge of the table. What do you mean? I shrugged. Define weird. She exhaled slowly. Like, anything unusual. Files, documents, something you didn't recognize. I watched her for a second. Really watched her. This was the moment. The one where most people either lie or explode. I did neither. I saw a document, I said. That was enough. Her expression changed instantly, not dramatic, but unmistakable. Okay, she said slowly. And I read it. Silence. Heavy. She didn't move, didn't blink. What document? That almost made me laugh. I leaned forward slightly. Elaborate strategy, I said. Pretend you don't know which one. Her jaw tightened. I'm asking you seriously. So am I. I held her gaze. Didn't raise my voice, didn't rush. Just steady. You want to try that again? I said. Another pause. Longer this time. Then her shoulders dropped just a fraction. And she said, what did you see? Everything, I said. That landed. You could see it. No more angles. No more control. Just impact. She looked away for a second, then back at me. That wasn't what you think it was. I actually smiled. Slow. Almost impressed. That's your opening line? It was a joke, she said quickly. We were just talking. It wasn't serious. A joke, I repeated. Yeah. With ratings. She didn't answer. With comments. Silence. With upgrade options. Her lips pressed together. I nodded slightly. Very funny, I said. You should take that act on the road. You're twisting it, she said, a little sharper now. You don't understand the context. Then help me, I said calmly. What context makes replaceability high sound like a punchline? She didn't answer, because there wasn't one. I leaned back, gave her space to talk. People like Vanessa always need space to rebuild the narrative. She took it. It was just venting, she said. Everyone does that. No, I said. Everyone doesn't build a structured evaluation system with peer review. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. Her voice rose slightly. You're overreacting. I laughed. Actually laughed this time. Overreacting? I said. You and your friends built a scoring system for your husband, and I'm the one overreacting? It wasn't meant for you to see. And there it was. The real sentence. Not apology, not regret, just logistics. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I said. That's the problem. Silence fell again. But this time it wasn't uncertain. It was final. I stood up, walked over to the counter. My phone. She watched me, carefully. What are you doing? She asked. I didn't answer. Just unlocked it. Opened the folder. Turned the screen toward her. Screenshots. Every page. Every comment. Every rating. Time-stamped. Organized. Her face changed. Really changed this time. You saved it? Of course I did, I said. I'm a 3 out of 10 in ambition, remember? But I try. She didn't speak, didn't move, just stared. I stepped closer, set the phone on the table between us, then said, You rated me like a product. Quiet, flat, no emotion left in it. So I decided to test your system. The silence stretched. Then she said, quieter now. You were the one writing in the document. Yeah. Why would you do that? I looked at her. Really looked this time. Because you already started the game, I said. I just stopped playing by your rules. She shook her head slightly. This is insane. No, I said. This is accurate. Another pause. Then she tried one more time. Okay, we can fix this. I tilted my head. Fix what? This, she said, gesturing between us. We can talk about it. Work through it. I let out a slow breath, then smiled. I already did, I said. And then I reached into my bag, pulled out a folder, set it on the table. She looked at it, didn't touch it. What is that? She asked. You like documents, I said. Thought I'd make one for you. She opened it slowly, read the first page. Her eyes moved faster with each line. Then she stopped, looked up at me. You're serious? Completely. Divorce papers. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. I picked up my keys, walked to the door, then paused, looked back at her. You should update your file, I said. She didn't move. Loyalty, 1 out of 10. A beat. Respect, 0. Another. Integrity, 0. I opened the door, stepped out, then added without turning back, replaceability? A small pause, then, turns out that one wasn't about me. And I left. They wanted a game. They just didn't think I'd flip the board. A few months later, the silence felt different. Not heavy, not tense, just quiet, in the way a clean room is quiet after you throw out everything that didn't belong there. The divorce went through faster than I expected. No dramatic courtroom speeches, no last-minute confessions, just paperwork, signatures, finality. I heard things, of course. Mutual friends talk. They always do. Apparently, the group chat didn't survive either. Funny how systems collapse when the subject stops cooperating. Vanessa reached out once. A short message. I didn't think you'd actually leave. I read it, didn't reply, because that was the whole point. She thought I was safe, predictable, manageable. Turns out, I just hadn't been tested properly. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.